Between 1979 and 1981, the city of Atlanta was gripped by fear as a series of brutal murders claimed the lives of at least 28 children, teenagers, and young adults. The Atlanta child murders remain one of the most haunting and controversial cases in American history. The case not only shocked the nation, but also left an indelible mark on Atlanta's community, sparking outrage, fear, and a relentless demand for justice. Today, we'll explore the harrowing case of the Atlanta child murders, examining the tragic events, the intense investigation, and the enduring questions that continue to haunt the families of the victims and the city of Atlanta. We'll delve into the backgrounds of the victims, the challenges faced by investigators, and the theories that have emerged over the decades. This is a story of heartbreak and the ongoing quest for truth and closure. The victims of the Atlanta child murders were predominantly African American children and teenagers, ranging in age from 7 to 17 years old. The case later expanded to include several young adults, primarily young black men. Each victim was taken from their neighborhood, often disappearing without a trace until their bodies were found days or weeks later. Among the victims was 14-year-old Edward Hope Smith, an aspiring musician, and 13-year-old Alfred Evans, who loved sports and dreamed of becoming a professional athlete. The loss of these young lives shattered their families and left a community grappling with profound grief and fear. Each victim had a story, a life full of potential, cruelly cut short by a merciless predator. Atlanta, in the late 1970s and early 1980s, was a city undergoing significant social and economic changes, despite its status as a burgeoning hub for black culture and enterprise. Many communities faced poverty, unemployment, and crime, creating a fertile ground for such horrific acts. The city was a paradox of progress and peril, with its vibrant cultural renaissance shadowed by socio-economic struggles. The victims predominantly came from impoverished neighborhoods where the sense of vulnerability was high. The fear that gripped these communities was palpable, with parents keeping their children indoors and community leaders calling for more protection and resources. The city's racial dynamics also played a crucial role, with many African American residents feeling neglected and marginalized by authorities. The series of murders had a profound impact on the local community. Vigils, marches, and community meetings were held to raise awareness and demand action. The sense of unity and collective grief galvanized the community, but also highlighted deep-seated issues of mistrust and racial tension with law enforcement. The first known victims were Edward Hope Smith, age 14, and Alfred Evans, age 13, whose bodies were found in July 1979. Both boys had been strangled, marking the beginning of a pattern of killings that would terrorize Atlanta for the next 2 years. Their deaths signaled the start of a grim and relentless series of crimes. As the months passed, more children and teenagers went missing, only to be found dead later. The bodies were often discovered in remote wooded areas, near bodies of water or abandoned buildings. The methods of killing, primarily strangulation and asphyxiation, pointed to a methodical and chilling modus operandi. The victims were regularly abducted from their neighborhoods, sometimes in broad daylight. They were found days or weeks later, usually in wooded areas or near bodies of water. Many showed signs of asphyxiation, and some bore evidence of sexual assault. The pattern suggested a calculated and deliberate targeting of young, vulnerable individuals. Many of the victims were last seen accepting rides from strangers or being lured away by promises of money or jobs. This pointed to a perpetrator who was familiar with the community and adept at gaining the trust of children. The brazen nature of these abductions, frequently in view of witnesses, underscored the killer's audacity and confidence. The Atlanta Police Department, with assistance from the FBI and other agencies, launched an extensive investigation. Task forces were formed, and the city imposed curfews to protect children. However, the lack of solid leads and forensic evidence initially hampered their efforts. The investigation was complex and fraught with challenges, from gathering evidence to dealing with the intense media scrutiny. Initially, the police were slow to connect the murders. attributing them to runaways or isolated incidents. It wasn't until the pattern became undeniable that a more coordinated effort was launched. The delay in recognizing the serial nature of the crimes drew criticism from the community and media alike. The investigation faced numerous challenges, including the racial tension in the city and the skepticism from the African American community, who felt the authorities were not doing enough to protect their children. The lack of reliable forensic technology at the time also complicated the search for the killer. The strained relationship between the community and the police created significant obstacles. The African American community in Atlanta was vocal in their criticism of the police response. Many felt that the murders were not being taken seriously because the victims were black. This mistrust hindered cooperation and made it difficult for investigators to gather information from potential witnesses. In May 1981, Wayne Williams, a 23-year-old freelance photographer and music promoter, was arrested after a police surveillance team heard a splash in the Chattahoochee River and found Williams's car nearby. 2 days later, the body of Nathaniel Cater, a 27-year-old man, was found in the river. Fiber evidence linked Williams to several victims. The police had staked out various bridges over the Chattahoochee River, suspecting the killer was dumping bodies there. Williams's suspicious behavior and the subsequent discovery of Cater's body led to his arrest. This marked a significant breakthrough in the case, though it would not resolve all the questions. Prosecutors presented fiber evidence found on several victims that matched fibers from Williams's home, car, and dog. This forensic link was crucial in building the case against Williams. The meticulous work of forensic analysts in tracing these fibers was pivotal in the prosecution's strategy. In 1982, Williams was convicted for the murders of Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne, both adults. Prosecutors presented evidence linking him to several of the child murders, but he was never tried for those cases. Despite his conviction, many questions remained unanswered, and skepticism persisted about his involvement in all the murders. The trial was highly publicized and controversial. The prosecution relied heavily on circumstantial evidence, while the defense argued that the case against Williams was weak and racially motivated. The conviction did not bring closure to many of the victims' families, who felt that justice had not been fully served. Many believe Wayne Williams is responsible for the majority of the murders, pointing to the fiber evidence and his suspicious behavior. However, some argue that the evidence was circumstantial and that he was a convenient scapegoat for the authorities eager to close the case. The debate over Williams's guilt continues to this day. Critics of the Williams theory point to inconsistencies in the evidence and the lack of direct proof linking him to the child victims. They argue that the case against him was built on weak foundations and that other potential suspects were not thoroughly investigated. Other theories suggest multiple perpetrators were involved, possibly including members of the Ku Klux Klan or a pedophile ring operating in the area. These theories stem from inconsistencies in the victim profiles and the varied methods of killing. Some believe that the murders were not the work of a single individual, but rather a combination of different predators. One of the more controversial theories involves the Ku Klux Klan. Documents released years later revealed that the Klan had been investigated in connection with the murders, but no charges were ever filed. This theory suggests a racially motivated conspiracy that was covered up or ignored by authorities. The African American community in Atlanta has long harbored doubts about Williams's guilt, citing potential racial bias and flaws in the investigation. Some community leaders believe the true killers were never caught and that justice has not been fully served. The community's skepticism is fueled by historical mistrust of the criminal justice system. Behavioral experts have developed profiles suggesting that the killer or killers exhibited traits of control and manipulation. The ability to gain the trust of children and the calculated nature of the abductions point to an individual or group with a deep understanding of predatory tactics. In recent years, there have been calls to re-examine the evidence using modern forensic technology. In 2019, Atlanta's mayor and police chief announced that they would revisit the case, hoping that advances in DNA testing might provide new leads. The reinvestigation aims to bring closure to the families and address lingering doubts. Modern DNA technology, including familial DNA searches, has the potential to identify new suspects or confirm existing theories. The re-examination process involves retesting old evidence with more sensitive and advanced methods, which could yield significant breakthroughs. The Atlanta child murders continue to captivate public interest, inspiring books, documentaries, and television series. The enduring mystery and the emotional impact on the victims' families and the community ensure that the case remains a significant part of Atlanta's history. Public interest keeps the pressure on authorities to solve the case. Recent documentaries have shed new light on the case, bringing it to the attention of a new generation. These media portrayals often explore alternative theories and highlight the personal stories of the victims' families, keeping the narrative alive and relevant. Community leaders and activists continue to push for justice and transparency. They advocate for the use of all available resources to finally resolve the case and provide answers to the grieving families. The Atlanta child murders are a tragic chapter in American history, marked by the loss of innocent lives and a community's enduring pain. Despite the conviction of Wayne Williams, the case leaves many questions unanswered and continues to be a source of controversy and speculation. The quest for justice and truth persists, driven by the memories of the victims and the resilience of their families. What are your thoughts on the Atlanta child murders? Do you believe justice was served, or are there more secrets to uncover? Share your insights and theories in the comments below. If you found this deep dive intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest true crime investigations. Your engagement helps us continue to explore and uncover some of the most compelling mysteries in criminal history. Join us next time as we uncover another gripping tale of mystery and intrigue, the case of the Green River Killer. We'll delve into the investigation, the victims, and the eventual capture of one of America's most prolific serial killers.